I need something to do when I do retire, and I'd like to write your biography, Coach. I would like
Man,
to write the
hey,
Hank Tierney story.
hey, man, guess what? You got it. You got it. I'd love you to do that. Because no one
No
has
money,
done it
Coach. I
like
don't
you
want to
have.
make a penny from it. Well, if the book sells, it's all going to the Field Turf
Go
Project.
to the turf. There you
There
go.
we go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It ain't about money. It's about giving
I
back.
appreciate that, Jimmy. That means a lot to me. I appreciate you saying that.
Como se va and que pasa? Welcome to another edition of the In the Pocket with Jay Bode podcast, and I'm your host, Jay Bodwin. And boy, do we have a special one for you guys today, especially everybody on the West Bank of New Orleans and the Archbishop Shaw community. But before we get started, I just want to remind everybody to please follow us. You can catch all the full episodes on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. And we also advertise the podcast on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We're all over the place, so there's no reason to miss us. This is going to be a special dedicated show to Donald Truck Hymel, graduate of Archbishop Shaw in 1981, and we'll talk about Truck here in a little bit. But I want to introduce our guest today. He is a state championship football coach from 1987 and from the 2024 team. He is numerous Coach of the Year awards, Archbishop Shaw Hall of Fame inductee in the class of 2022. He's an educator. He's also a developer of young men, coaching and teaching, and also a great friend to a lot of people, too many to mention. And I want to welcome to the show Mr. Hank Tierney, also legendary known as Coach Hank. So, Coach Hank, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much for having me. I've been looking forward to this, and a real pleasure for me to be on with you guys tonight.
Really appreciate it, Coach. Thank you so much for taking the time with us. We wanted to do this during football season, but we knew we couldn't bother you then. And co-hosting today, who's also been a guest on the show, and he's also done remote interviews for the podcast, which makes him a major contributor here within the Pocket with Jay Bo. He is a retired lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army, a graduate of Archbishop Shaw in 1983, and also an offensive tackle, number 64. Welcome to the show, Big Jimmy. Jimmy Hintz. Welcome, Jimmy. How you doing, man?
J-Bo, it's a pleasure to be here. Super excited about this, spreading the word of Archbishop Shaw and its resurgence, and really talking about the good old days and where Shaw's going to go next.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, I really appreciate you being on today, Jimmy. And before we get rolling, I wanted to give props, Coach, to Renee, Truck's sister, Renee Bladesacker, I think is how you say it. Renee had the idea for us to get together to have you on the podcast. And I just looked at her and said, Renee, you think Coach would do it? And she goes, oh, I know he will. I want to thank her. And also what goes along with that is we said in the beginning of the show is that we're dedicating this in memory of Truck Hymel. Coach, if you would, just give us a little quick memory you have of Truck, just something, that always sticks out with you.
Well, I got a lot of truck stories. Probably the most famous one is I could have swore I got gas in my car when they were managers for me at Shaw. And Truck was more like a coach than a manager. And one afternoon I came out and my gas tank was on empty. I could have swore I had a fourth of a tank, and I would find out about 2 years later that Truck and Wayne went riding all over the West Bank doing practice. So that was one of many, many truck tales I could tell over the years, but just a wonderful individual. That's the way I got involved with Renee and them, is we're trying to do a number of things to honor Truck at the high school. And the Hymel family has been very supportive, obviously, of every effort we made to do that.
And definitely, we did a podcast on him last fall, and man, it did tremendous. I think it's still my second most viewed podcast in the history of the show.
It was great. It was fantastic. I listened to the whole thing.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, Duck was on that show, and Darren Vincent, Wayne LeBlanc, and Brian Bain's father. And man, it was just
some of Shaw's elite on that show. Absolutely.
Yeah, how about that? And so, Jimmy, if you would, I know you knew Truck really well too. Why don't you give us a word about Truck, if you would, man?
Man, Truck Hymel was more than a legend. Anyone who met Donald Truck Hymel was touched by him, his commitment, his friendship, the way he would go above and beyond to just make you feel special. And he's just one of a kind and a great, great human being, period.
Yeah, definitely. And God rest his soul. Just a wonderful fella. And we're going to bring him up after every chance we get with the show. My seasons run every 6 months, and I do a bi-monthly podcast. And I told Renee I'm going to do something tied to Truck at least once every season. So we'll keep his memory going as long as this show's going and the Shaw alumni and the Shaw community is contributing to our show. We're going to keep his memory alive. No doubt about that. So thank you, gentlemen, for both of those kind words about Truck. So let's move along here. Coach, one thing we like to do here with the In the Pocket with J Bo podcast is we have like an icebreaker type of question. And Jimmy and I, just to set the mood right, to get things flowing here. When Jimmy and I were talking earlier today, we were thinking about what can we ask Coach? And Jimmy came up with a pretty good one. So, Mr. Hintz, Lieutenant Colonel, why don't you proceed, sir?
Well, Coach, you always were very boastful and proud about your handyman skills. I mean, you could fix and do anything. So I just kind of wondered, Coach, when you come home in the afternoon and a light bulb is broken, do you A, call an electrician, B, call a plumber, or C, call Miss Joanne?
I definitely call Miss Joanne because I absolutely positively cannot screw in a light bulb. You got me pegged right, Jimmy. My wife, when I was going to retire before I went to Shaw, she said, "You can't retire. You can't do anything. You don't have any hobbies. You can't do anything. So you got to get another job if you retire." So great question.
Coach, I figured you'd appreciate that one.
No, he's telling you the truth here. I'm telling you.
Good stuff, man. Jimmy, thank you. So, Coach, if you will, we're going to proceed to the meat and potatoes of our conversation today. And just to be transparent, I graduated in '82 at Shaw, and Jimmy graduated in '83. And Coach, I know you started around 1977 at Shaw, so we're going to probably spend a little more time on when the foundation was built, with you being at Shaw and Coach Zimmerman. So we're going to talk about those things, and most of all, because it's my show, and I want to talk about all my people with this.
So do I.
The first question I got with everything today is, Coach, why don't you talk to us a little bit about, you grew up in old Algiers. So why don't you talk to us about the area
Okay.
you grew up in, how sports kind of influenced you when you were young and what led you into the direction, that you ended up going into?
In old Algiers on Whitney Avenue, not too far from Berman High School, and went to St. Julian Amon, went to Holy Cross High School. I talk at the '69 Shaw reunion every year, and they always ask me, "Well, why didn't you go to Shaw?" And I always got the greatest answer ever. I always said, "Man, I want to go to Shaw, but I couldn't get in. So I had to go to Holy Cross." But very fortunate to have role models in my family. You mentioned the Brechtels before. My uncle Johnny Brechtel was a very successful high school coach in New Orleans, started the New Orleans Recreation Department. Uncle John Tackerberry was World War II veteran and hero. He was a coach. My father was a coach. So I had coaches in my life and was very fortunate to, I knew when I was young I wanted to coach. And I actually, when I got out of high school, I went to the University of New Orleans, okay, which was like going to high school again. But
Right.
I was able to get a job very early at Berman Playground in Algiers. And I started coaching. And again, I was very fortunate because I came under the tutelage of a famous Algiers coach that y'all know his son, Coach Al Ott. And
Mm,
Coach Al Ott, whose son was Jimmy Ott, was a legend. Al Ott, along with Don Watney, they're the gentleman that started the powerhouse known as Edna Carr. They were the first coaches at Carr Junior High School. And when I was coaching at Berman Playground, Coach Ott was teaching and coaching at Carr Junior High. He was also working on the playground. So he was the first guy that kind of took me under his wing and helped me with a lot of things in coaching, coaching football, basketball, and baseball on the playground, as you always do on the playground. Then I was able to come under Tom D'Angelo, who's a famous Biddy basketball coach, and a guy by the name of Hal Savini, who played basketball at Tulane. So I had a great background of being around mentors that really helped me when I was a young coach. But starting so young, I had a lot of experience. Just having done it for a long time with a lot of different sports, it really helped me out. And then my coaching career really started, believe it or not, when I graduated from UNO. My first job was at St. Joseph in Gretna Elementary School.
Okay.
It was in August of 1973 when I first came across a very rambunctious fifth grader at St. Joe's by the name of Donald Hymel. Okay. My first coaching job was at St. Joseph, and it's kind of funny. Jimmy will really relate to this. My first thing I coached at St. Joseph was flag football, and my first game coaching flag football was against St. Anthony's. So we get ready to kick off. I'm all excited. My first game as a coach at St. Joseph flag football. And we're about to kick off, and I see the deep guy. This guy looks like he's older than me. And we kick off to him, and he probably runs a kickoff back 60 yards for a touchdown, runs for our whole team. His name is John Folke. So that was my
Wow.
first introduction to watching a quality athlete at work.
Right.
But that St. Anthony team had John Folk and Randy Canton and guys that were going to be great players at Shaw. But speeding through St. Joseph, I was able to coach a lot of guys who I would later coach at Shaw. Like Chuck, who was a basketball player when he was young, Kenny St. John, who was an outstanding basketball player at Shaw, Kenny Trahan, who was a great football player at Shaw, and a bunch of those guys. Jeffrey Shue, who Jimmy knows, was a two-way performer at Shaw. I had all these guys at St. Joseph, and it was kind of ironic because when I was at St. Joseph, I wanted to coach in high school, but I wanted to coach basketball. I was a bitty basketball coach. I had good teams at St. Joseph, but it was at the Shaw Invitational that I met a gentleman by the name of Coach Zimmerman, Joe Zimmerman, who would become my mentor. And when I tell you my mentor, really my mentor, that is correct. Every single thing that I learned about coaching football, about coaching young men, about handling young men, I give 100% of that credit to Coach Zimmerman. And so when it was January 1977, and I had a really good job offer from Jesuit to coach basketball, and I had another really good job offer from Shaw to coach football and basketball. And I was way more into basketball. I didn't know very much about football. Some people say I still don't. But anyway, I was able to, so I weighed all the pros and cons, and I went because of Coach Z. And I went to Shaw. Without a doubt, it was the best decision I ever made in my life. So I started coaching at Shaw in January 1977, and I left Chuck and them when they were in 8th grade, but they would rejoin me, at Shaw. And then I coached that first Shaw team. The first Shaw team I coached was the one that lost to South Lafourche in the playoffs to Bobby
Yeah.
Abad and Ed Ogeron. That was the first Shaw team. I coached the DBs, and 3 of my 4 guys that I coached signed Division I scholarships. I had nothing to do with it. They were coaching me more than I was coaching them. And that was Randy Canton and Frank Helene and Darren Barbier, who was going to be a tremendous coach himself. That was my
Definitely.
first team, and that was my first opportunity to coach at Shaw with Coach Zimmerman. And I stayed Coach Z's assistant for 6 years, from 1977 1983, I got to coach them Hinge Bars and Kevin Prestonberg and Rennis Blanch and all them guys that we're about to talk about. And I was Coach G's top assistant, became his defensive coordinator 1 year later, 1978, and stayed with him till he left to go to De La Salle in 1983, and I became the head coach. So, St. Joseph, Berman Playground and St. Joseph to Shaw, I never left the West Bank, till out to 2001, so I had the great fortune of coaching a lot of tremendous young people, quality young men that Archbishop Shaw has put out forever. And I've just been very fortunate to have had that opportunity.
Yes, sir. And when did you start having the coaching aspirations? Was that in high
I
school? Was it at
wanted to coach when
UNO
I
or?
was young. I was actually cut from Holy Cross's varsity in my junior year.
Mhm.
It was a little bit different back then. Not making any excuses. We don't cut anymore. Just so you know, we don't. At Shaw,
Right.
we don't cut. We have 113 kids in a varsity. We have 58th graders. We have 180 kids 75 kids in the program right now. Back
Wow.
then, Holy Cross was it was
Wow.
the best school in the Catholic League. They had
Yeah.
45 on the varsity, and it was tough. And probably the best thing ever happened to me because I got an early start in coaching because of that. But I always liked sports. I always was attracted to sports. I was a sports fan, so to speak. I used to like to watch games. I like sports. So I started coaching young at the playground and met a lot of people. Jimmy knows Marvin Davis Smith. I
Yeah.
coached Marvin Davis Smith on the playground. So a lot of guys that ended up going to Shaw, I coached. Sidney Goodjohn, guys like that, I coached on the playground. So it
We're
was
gonna be
probably
bringing
why
them up, I promise you.
probably why Coach Z hired me, more so because he thought I could probably get kids to go to Shaw than my coaching prowess. But anyway, I always wanted to coach, and once I decided to do it, I did. I tried my very best to be the very best coach I could be. Again, I give all the credit in the world to Coach Zimmerman. My first year, and Jimmy will appreciate this. My first year was when we lost to South Lafourche. I really think we had the best team in the state. We only had 5 varsity coaches, which sounds crazy now because we have 16 coaches at Shaw right now that coach from 8th grade to 12th. But we only had 5 coaches. So my first year, I coached the outside linebackers in the 3 deep secondary. And we went to like I said, we lost to South Ocean, probably shouldn't have. The next year, Coach Z lost all his coaches, and in my second year coaching, he made me the defensive coordinator. Now, I had no business being that. I wasn't ready to be that, but we had no coaches. Coaches, the two coaches that went short the year before, one of them got the head job at East St. John, the other one went with them. So there was just no one to take that place. So with me, it was trial and error. So I remember Coach, he said, come on, I'm going to teach you. Let's go. Him and I rode all over the state of Louisiana. We went and visited colleges. He was trying to educate me to become a better defensive coach. And then as the years went on, we were able to, I was able to gain experience, obviously, and we were able to hire a bunch of good coaches. And then, when Coach Z left, we were going to have the best team we ever had. To this day, I regret him leaving. I mean, it gave me an opportunity. But we had Sancho and Nacho and Mickey Gidry, those guys, they were all coming back as seniors. We were going to have a great team. And I remember telling him, man, don't win. We're going to win district. We might win state. But he left. He went to De La Salle, and it gave me my opportunity. And I was very fortunate. I inherited a lot of good players, and I've been able to, make a go of it ever since then.
Didn't Coach Z go to De La Salle?
He went to Warren Easton in high school, but he went to De La Salle. You're correct. That's where he went, to De La Salle to coach.
He had some ties there. Because, man, we were shocked when we heard he was leaving. We were shocked. I remember
they
that
had
like
the
it was
T-shirts,
yesterday.
Coach Z is a Cavalier. So let me tell you how I got the head job at Shaw. This is a great story. So I'm a six-year assistant coach, and I'm the only one on the staff with any experience. So, if they were going to go in staff, I was going to be the coach. But they did not want to go in staff. They wanted to get a guy with head coach on his resume. I understand that because we had a good program, really good program, with three of the best players in the state coming back. Brother Jim was the AD. I remember Brother Jim. Yeah. Brother Jim walked in the back, and he said, "This is the day Coach Z said he was going to De La Salle was the first day back after the Christmas break." And I had known he was gone, and I had not even the slightest chance to get the job. I didn't think. I thought they wanted to get, a Henry Rand. They had a bunch of good people apply for the job. So Brother Jim walks to the back and he says, "Well, we hope you apply for the job." Well, I was young and brash, and I knew I wasn't getting it anyway. So I told Brother Jim, I said, "Brother, you either hire me by 3:00 today, or I'm going to De La Salle." Coach Z was sitting right next to me, and he looked at me like, "What are you doing?" And I just knew Brother Jim was going to say no. Well, you need to go to De La Salle. And that's basically what he said. He said, "Well, I was hoping you would apply, but we're not going to do that. We're opening it up. We're going to have an interview process." I shook his hands with Brother Go up. I remember he left and goes in. We started deciding who was going to recruit what junior highs on the West Bank to go to De La Salle. And about 1:00, I get a phone call from the office, and it says, "Father Pat wants to see you in his office." Well, Father Pat was the director, and it was his first year, 1983, as a director.
Right.
Well, he called me up there, and I figured he was going to say, you ought to at least interview, because I tried to do the best job I could do in the classroom, as a teacher. So, I think they thought I was a good teacher, and they didn't want me to leave. So I sit down and he says, "Well, you tell me why you think you should be the coach." So I start telling him all kinds of things. I'm 31 years old. What I got to lose? I'm telling him,
Right.
Players in. I know everybody. I know the kids. I know the school. And he's just listening. And he's looking at me and he's just listening. And he says, "Okay, you the next coach." That's how I got hired. No interview, no nothing. He handed me the job. Now, he knew as much about football as my dog. He knew nothing about football. I just think he thought that was the easiest thing to do, was to hire me on staff. And now Father Pat ended up marrying me 4 years later. And in fact, in 2 weeks, my wife and I are going to New York. It's his 50th renewal of his vows as a priest.
Wow.
Obviously, I owe him a lot, so I get the job in 83. I inherit, those guys. Like I said, we probably go 9-1. I mean, we got a great team. Again,
right.
Because then we probably would have went 10-0, but
right.
We had a great team. And I remember we lost to Eric the second round of playoffs in the slot. We had a bad snap on the punt. Mark Freeman was the greatest old snap of all time. The weather conditions were very bad. And that's how Eric won. And Eric ended up having a really good team. And then, I went on to have really good teams, after that. But let's talk about my years as an assistant. That's what we want to talk about when them Hens boys brought Marrero.
Right.
So, Coach, I want to add a little bit of that story because I remember it distinctly, how it happened. You come back to the gym right after that announcement. Father Pat gets on the mic on what the heck we call it, Jay? This better be an intercom system, and says he is proud to announce that Coach Hank Tierney is going to be the new head football coach at Shaw High School. And you're walking into the gym, and I'm walking out, and you tell me, Jimmy, you're the first person I'm seeing, man. And you shake my hand, I shake your hand, and you say, Jimmy, I know you want to be a football coach someday. I'll always have a place for you here, man. Believe you that I was the first guy you ever saw after you got back to the gym.
I definitely was in the gym when he announced it. You 100% correct there. I definitely was. Because even after I left his office, I was thinking, yeah, somebody was going to talk him out of this. Him being a new director principal, he didn't know what was going on, you know. But I really did think that, and again, it's been a great ride.
We talked a little bit about that late 70s, early 80s, when the foundation for Archbishop Shaw football was built. Jay and I were just putting down some names here, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but definitely want to mention some guys that I consider Hall of Fame Shaw guys. Kenny Burnage, Angelo Provenzano, Tommy Shaft, Sid Goudreau, Steve Mott, John and Keith. I mean, the 4K brothers, right? Bo Davis, Jeff Reshoe, Glenn Aguilar, who steps up as a senior to play quarterback and leads us to the district championship in 79.
Yep.
Joe Jackson, Hugh Smith, Mike Toops. I mean, you got to mention Mike Toops in that great Shaw era. One injury away from being, probably the best running back in the state. And that's the year Gary James and Dalton Hilliard, but Mike Toops was right there, stat for stat. Dennis Blanchard, you mentioned Nacho and Ronnie Sancho, the Joseph brothers, just a long lineage of guys who have been successful both at the high school, college level, and a lot of them went on to play in the NFL.
Right.
And then two guys, I don't want to forget these two guys' names, Randy Canton, Mark Fredrickson. My God,
Yeah. Kevin
Great
Killeen,
people.
we could keep bringing them up. I think I don't know if we said Cedric Smith. Cedric was a good receiver. Who else? We said Prestonberg. Man, there's just a lot of guys. Did we say Arnold Wilson, Big Pig Wilson?
Pig Wilson, and don't forget Robert Jackson.
Robert Jackson, he stepped up, yeah.
And
I got to tell you, Coach, remember Coach Fred Dufresne?
Yeah, Freddie Dufresne, his son Mark played cornerback. And Mark,
Mark played corner.
And the younger son. Right,
I
yeah,
grew
they
up
all
right
played.
by them at Woodmere. I grew up right by them at Woodmere, and you remember that. And Coach Fred always said Pig Wilson was one of the toughest players he ever seen before. That's what he used to always
about 3 weeks ago, I went to supper with Robert Jackson, David Beerbaum, Louis Aroka, and Kenny St. John.
Nice.
But we had a heck of a time reminiscing.
Nice. Louis Aroka's good people.
But Coach, with all those names, what made Coach Z special? And back then, what were the expectations of the program?
I'm gonna tell you the thing I thought the best about Coach Z and having coached forever and having watched coaches forever was that the command and the respect that Coach Z had from the players. Like I don't know if I ever remember Coach Z raising his voice. He coached with the same demeanor all the time. He was always excited about everything he did. But man, he could get discipline. He could get your attention. He could get you to do things without even yelling. He'd walk in the room, everybody would get quiet. I mean, he just commanded such a great presence and had such a great awareness of what was going on that some of the things he would say, I still say to this day about things he would say in practice and things. I mean, he taught me so much. And I think the number one thing he taught me, Jimmy, was organization. We never walked in a practice field without a practice schedule detailing every single thing we were doing. He didn't believe in wasted time. He wanted to get you on the field, coach, and get you off. And that was always his message. And of course, I have to tell you, he was building that weight room. I mean, he wanted everybody to lift. He wanted Shaw to be the strongest team. And he would always come up with the word of the week. I remember we get ready to play. I don't know if you were playing then, Jimmy, but we were playing Rumble. We had a lot of trouble beating Rumble in the early days.
Yeah.
We had a good team, and I thought this was going to be the year we could beat them. But the word of the week was street fight. He said, "What's the word? Street fight."
Street fight.
I think we ended up beating the hell out of Rumble too that year, man. But Coach Z, man, he was something. And I still talk to him. He still comes to the games.
That's awesome.
And he, I remember when my last team at Ponchatoula went to the Dome, and this was a record that I'm not very proud of, but we had a really good team. But our best running back got hurt the week before. He was leading the state in rushing, and he ended up trying to play hurt, and then he didn't play. But we lost to Zachary in a very good game, but we threw 52 passes in a game, which is still a record in a 5A state championship game. And when that phone rang Monday morning, Coach, he said, "Man, what the hell is wrong with you? Throwing 52 passes? How the hell did you think you were going to
run a veer, man?
You forgot where you came from? Trying to explain to the running back was hurt, but he didn't know that much.
Man.
Well, coach, now you were pretty organized yourself. I remember being in one of your history classes, and you'd sit there with those manila envelopes, and you'd cut
Yep.
them in half, and you'd come up with the other team, and you'd hold it up for us. All right, this is what you got to do right here. You got to go here. You remember that?
Now, come on, Jim. I was supposed to be teaching history when I was doing that, though.
Well,
Coach, we
you
don't
were
know what he's
actually a
talking
really
about.
good history teacher, coach.
But yeah, I speak at clinics. I'm very fortunate. I get asked to speak at a lot of clinics, and that's the number one thing I think all coaches, they say, what's the main advice you could give a young coach? And it's always organization. Be organized in everything you do. And I got that from Coach Z, and I've tried to do that. And I do take a lot of pride in our teams and our practices being organized. A lot of coaches from around the metro come to watch us practice. And the reason they're
Right.
coming to watch us practice is because we get so much done in the practice. And I think that's the most important thing, to be able to practice well. And then, if you have enough of talent, and that talent's always the key. If you have enough talent, then you're going to play well if you practice well. But man, expounding on those names you talked about, man, that brings back some great memories. Jimmy, remember the JV fight with Chalmette?
Oh my God. Wait. Which JV
I got to hear
fight,
about
coach?
this.
Because there was the West Jeff fight, there was the Chalmette fight.
Right.
Yeah, the Chalmette fight was so bad that I told him on the bus, now look, nobody say nothing about it here. Don't go back and say nothing, because if they find out what happened, I'm going to probably get fired. And we're not going to say nothing. I get to school Monday morning, 7:30, the phone rings. I'll come to the front office. I had to go talk to Father Pat and the principal because they had already heard about it. But it wasn't Father Pat, it was whoever the director was. But
Coach,
to
I
set the tone,
played my freshman year. And I can remember you driving the green bus, and we had a game.
oh yeah, they used to.
I want to say it was against
break down
Rummel.
they used to break down.
And you had
every
to
week.
drive that green bus over the Huey Long Bridge. And I remember at the foot of the bridge, you're like, how the hell am I get this bus over this narrow bridge?
I used to get in the middle lane, man.
Jimmy, the bus got so quiet. We were all like, damn, man.
Oh, I remember
Jimmy,
that bus. Man, that
Jimmy,
was it, man. You got in
Jimmy,
those green buses and
Man.
drive to West Jeff Stadium.
If you remember
And
the
it's too-
fight, the game
Go
was
ahead,
over.
Coach. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We're winning, the game's over. They're throwing a desperation pass on the last play of the game. They throwing it, and the kid throws it. They all go deep. He throws it, and what's going to be about 10 yards out of bounds, and the game's over. And it's been a rough, whenever you play this Chalmette here, it was never nice. It was always going to be rough. So, man, the
Right.
ball's about 10 yards overthrown. I'm like, let's go, man. Let's go to the bus. Well, David Smith's playing free safety. Of course, here he comes. Instead of just letting the ball go out of bounds, he's got to take an incredibly cheap late shot on a Chalmette receiver right in front of the Chalmette bench. I mean, right before you know it, everybody's fighting. Sonny Barnes got his helmet ball swinging, the big chest, the A-Bears fighting, the his bars are in there. I mean, there was about 20 people fighting. Well, it was bad, man. It was bad. Coaches were about to fight. So I just knew we were all going to get in trouble. We had that reputation.
Coach, how are you going to keep all that on the down low, right?
Yes. I think it's one of the parents. I don't think none of the players said a word. And Chalmette ended up reporting to the LHSAA. So we had to write a report on it and everything.
Oh.
And Coach he was yelling at me, I can't let you go anywhere. You got to control them kids. Coach, you don't know these guys, man. These kids are different, man.
West Bank is against Chalmatians. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah. You know that was something good, something bad had to happen. No doubt.
Right, no doubt.
Jimmy, let's talk about that fight that day, man. When I caught you taping your hands up. Let's talk about that. So it's the off season, okay? I go on the trailer, Jimmy's taping his hands. I said, Jimmy, what are you doing? He told me something about, Coach, my wrist hurts, weightlifting. My wrist been hurting. I'm trying to strengthen my wrist. I knew something was up, but I didn't say nothing. So I looked outside. They got about 100 kids over by the parking lot. The school that day has Jimmy's fighting like this 25-year-old man. Now, Jimmy, you take over from there. What happened, Jimmy?
Coach, you were close. It was actually during the season.
Oh, it was during the season, okay.
It was like a Wednesday, and we got a Thursday game.
Oh, that's lovely.
I'm over the guy. Right. I see the guy out there, so I know what's going to happen. And so that's when my brother's like, dude, you got to go tape your hands, man. You don't want to get hurt, So we go in. That's when I get all taped, and I go out. We do the deal. And Lee Degalos, remember Coach Degalos, comes running over.
Coach, that's
and
right.
He's breaking this up. Jimmy, what are you doing? We got a game tomorrow night. And I looked up and said, it's all right, Coach. I got my hands taped.
Man.
Yes, indeed. Well, hey, look, Coach, I want to bring up something else. And Jimmy said it a few minutes ago. And if you would, because we're friends, and he graduated same year as us. But man, just a word on Mike Toops back in the day from
Yeah, I'm glad you
his
brought
senior
that up.
year,
I
man.
mentioned it before. I wanted to say something. A couple of things
Because I
about
think
Mike.
he's kind of forgotten in a lot of things that's done with Shaw history and with the football program.
Number
But man,
one,
Mike was amazing.
number one, he was leading the state in rushing when he got hurt. He was
Right.
leading the state in rushing. He had a bad game week 1. It rained. I think we played Walker.
Right.
He had like 30
Walker.
yards.
Yep.
I remember Brian was all saying, he's overrated. The next
Right.
Friday, we played West Jefferson. He had 275 yards rushing against West
Yeah,
Jefferson.
because it
And he
was
took
Gary
off.
this way and Mike
And
that way.
Mike that way.
Gary
That's
this
right.
way, Mike this way. That's all it was.
But
I
when he
remember the
got
game.
hurt against Rumble, he was leading the state in rushing, and he had a scholarship offer to Auburn. Now, that was the same year, right around the time of Bo Jackson. I used to tell people all the time, Bo Jackson's lucky Mike Toops got hurt. He had a scholarship offer. Mike combined 10, 10-7, 10-6 heart meter time with a heart 90 pounds, which was big then. Great
Right.
agility, could cut, could run over you, could catch the ball. I mean, Mike had it all. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, Mike would have been a great, great college back. But then when you tore your ACL, they couldn't fix him. He
Right.
laid down a whole year. Louisiana Tech still signed him. He went up there on a scholarship, and the first time he carried in the spring, he tore it again, and he was done. So like today, if that happens, he misses 8 months and he's 100%.
Yeah.
But back then, they
And
put a ankle to hip cast on you and hope it healed on its own. But boy, you're right. And he only played 1 year. He was ineligible when he was a sophomore. When he was a junior, he got minor. So he
got
missed
mono.
8 games his junior year. So he really played 1 year. Just talk about bad luck, man, because he would have been without a doubt one of the best players in history. That's Shaw. No if and
no doubt. And in a limited time, he sure made an impression. And because Jimmy and I promised we're going to bring up that Jesuit game from my senior year when we beat Jesuit.
When I was in church yesterday, I was saying, man, I know they're going to bring that game up. That was on my buddies.
That's one of Jimmy's
Algiers.
favorite subjects. Go ahead, Jimmy. I know you want to talk about it.
That was Ernie Dangy and them. Go ahead, Jimmy. Go ahead. Let's talk about
Ernie
it.
D.
Coach, man, I mean, that will be the night that I will always remember in high school. I mean, almost the entire day was magical. We were 5-1. They were 6-0. We were playing in Pan American Stadium. It was game of the week. And, we had seats. We always packed. I mean, before the game, the Jesuit Blue Jay and the Shaw Eagle are getting in a fight on the field.
The mascots.
Like for real.
Johnny Hymel.
And we getting ready to go play football. It is packed. A beautiful night. And, man, I thought it was over. I think we all thought it was over. And then somehow the fumble miracle happened, and Ernie loses the ball, and Darren Adams just standing there pointing like that, and the referee points our way. We get the ball back. 2 plays later, Joey Popham to Ned Williams. And then next play, Mike Toops right over me.
Everybody in the world knew who was getting it then.
That's right. Joey Popham, the mega, and then to like the 1 yard line, and we were in sprint draw.
Everybody knew.
Right. And he walked in. Jimmy's telling you the truth. They wiped out that whole side of the line. And he walked in the end zone. And I remember the game ended, and the Jesuit principal and the Jesuit coaches would not leave. They were still out there fussing at the referees. And look, Ernie Dangy was an Algiers kid who I coached on the playground. He was the one who fumbled. And whenever I see Ernie now to this day, he'll say, Coach, I didn't fumble.
Greg Jordan and I used to work together for a few years, and Greg would always tell me, he didn't fumble, Jay. He didn't fumble. Yeah. And Greg's another Algiers boy.
So I tried to get Greg to go to Shaw. Greg ends up being a big old offensive lineman. That's right.
Yeah, he went to Tulane, I think.
He sure did. He sure did. Yes, he did.
Coach, I gotta say something before I forget. Did you know my uncle? His name's Al Grunts. That's an Algiers guy.
Man, Al Grunts is Algiers
big
legend.
tank. Yeah, that's my uncle, man.
I played softball against Al Grunts for many years. They said Al Grunts was a 3-sport athlete at Berman. And I tell you what, he was
bad. He was
a hell of a softball pitcher. I know that. Yeah, I know Mr. Grunts. We used to call him Mr. Al. Absolutely.
Yep, he was Tank. That's what everybody used to call him, was Tank. I had to bring that up because he passed away. He passed away a while back, but man, he was an awesome guy. He was an awesome dude, man.
So who we missed? I know Jimmy, who was on your team? So wait,
man, Robbie Sanchez. Can't forget Big Benny.
Big Robbie.
We had Doug Daigle, Mike McCarron, Darren Ducon, I was right tackle. We had Chuck Hoffman was the tight end.
Tight end.
Joey and
Yep.
Mickey split time. We had Toops in the backfield. Marvin David receiver. Terry Lopez.
Don't forget Joey.
Joey, big sledge, man. Big sledge,
Big
baby.
Joe.
Hey,
Big Joe. Number
Big Joe
25, baby.
Glenoscope and all. And then
Algiers.
on defense,
yes, he was.
defense
Yes, he
was
was.
stacked. You had a great D
Big Joey.
line and linebackers,
One of the
Chesterberg and
Dions was the fullback, huh? Kirk
Dion was
Dion.
the fullback.
Kirk was a Kenny was a fullback.
Kenny
was a fullback.
fullback.
And then
Well, that was one of
Mark and Rabbit were the corners, I think, right? Mark
Rennis
Dufresne
used
and
to run
Rabbit
off the field,
Powell.
and I'd say, man, what happened? Rennis would say, Rabbit got beat again. Yeah, look, I coached defense. That was my guys, man.
Right.
Rennis and Kevin and Duncan and Rennis were the inside backers. Darren Adams was a backup.
Darren Adams.
Team, man. We had
Brian
Big Chester,
Chandler.
we had Pete Rosenbaum and Darryl Crawford, and that whole crew. Man, I love them guys, man.
Big Darryl, man.
Robert Smith. You can't.
Robert Smith.
Oh, man,
that was a hell of an athlete.
Robert could run and hit. Robert was a tremendous athlete. Absolutely. Look, Robert Smith and Sancho were the defensive ends. I mean, we had a great defense that year, man. Tremendous.
Yeah.
Tommy
Who had us on our team at Brian Chandler.
Tommy Austin was a sophomore. Was on
Tommy
the field
Austin,
playing.
Tommy Austin.
Yep, TA.
And Darren was on that team. Crawford, right? Wasn't he?
Crawford was on that team as well.
Joe Provenzano.
Joe was a sophomore, but he got a little bit of time. Yeah.
We had some good players on defense now. Absolutely, man. Wow.
But, Coach, I got to tell you, I remember that picture. I'm sorry, Jimmy. I remember that picture from my freshman year in the yearbook, and it was Keith Forcade, Steve Mott, Jeff Rishu, and Smoke. And, I mean, that was some badass dudes. We walking in Shaw as freshmen, and I'll never forget, we ran into Mott and Steve Mott in the hallway, like our first week of school, like the second day. We're like, God damn, man.
Mott, when he was a senior, he was 250 pounds, and nobody was 220. Mott was 250 as a senior. And look, fellas, while we're talking, let's not forget Coach Kadarian, Jimmy?
Man, Big Jim.
You know, he coached with me at West Jeff, and he coached with me at Ponchatoula, all the way up till he retired 2 years before he passed. But boy, he was something at Shaw. He'd be spitting tobacco on people and unbelievable. And you also mentioned Mark Williams. And Mark was an offensive lineman, a very good one. He played. Look, Jay, he's just a couple years behind you, Jimmy. They played in '84, so they were a lot of freshmen, huh? When y'all were there.
He's class 85, same as my wife. Class 85.
Mark was a good lineman, and Scott Bainsford was on that team. And we had a bunch of good players on that team as well. That team went 5-5. That was my second team when they were seniors. And Mickey Joseph was a sophomore. And then the next year we went 9-1, and things really took off after that. But those teams that Jimmy played on, they kind of set the tone, man. I mean,
without a
Shaw
doubt.
had one or two good teams with the Forcades, and then Sydney and them. But then when Jimmy and them came around, even though we didn't get in the playoffs one year, we were good, man. We were.
Well, Aguilar and them did pretty good.
We won district that year with Aguilar.
Yeah, won district that year.
But
That's right.
Remember this too now. Don't forget this. Only 2 teams went to the playoffs then.
That's right.
Now, you can go 3-7 now.
Everybody and grandma gets in the playoffs now, right?
Everybody.
But Coach, I'm looking at this list. Kenny Burnich, Auburn. Okay, Tommy Shapp played at Northeastern. Mott at Alabama. John and Keith at Ole Miss. Smoke at Oklahoma. Glenn could have played. Glenn was good, man.
Glenn was a good baseball player too. Very good.
Glenn was really good, and his brother Kevin. Good people, man. Juan Smith. I mean, Juan Smith was a great running back.
He played our golf tournament 2 years ago, and I had not seen him since he played. And sure enough, he was out there playing. In fact, him and Sergeant Smith were playing together in the golf tournament.
Gotcha. Mike Toops would have definitely played Division I. Jimmy played. Jimmy's being humble over there. Jimmy played at Benedictine College, and he actually made the LSU team on the field. Before too. So Jimmy, big props to my man right here. And brother Sean played at Benedictine College too.
But them guys like Jimmy and Sean, those guys were the epitome of the Shaw football player. They were hard-nosed, tough guys, and they didn't back down from anybody. That was Shaw's reputation. Over the years, people have told me they'd be riding across the river on a bus on a Saturday afternoon coming to play Shaw, and just knowing what they were in for. Just knew what it was going to be like, what kind of environment it was going to be. It was going to be for men only. It was going to be a tough guy, football game. And that's what those teams is what made Shaw what Shaw was. The great teams I had from the 80s into the 90s, they were built on the character of those early Shaw, Joe Zimmerman teams. And that's a fact. And that's the deal about Shaw is that was what was passed on from team to team to team was, hey, man, you're going to play for Shaw. You're going to be tough. You're going to be a physical, tough guy. And that's the mantra even to this day about Shaw football. And that's them guys got that started. They really did.
Hey, Coach, I
Yep,
got one more name that just popped in my head. We got to mention him, Mike Kane.
And
yeah.
I told we went to supper the other night. His name came up. Mike Kane played both ways. He played two ways as a sophomore and a junior. He played running back and inside linebacker. And Mike Kane was in Truck's class because I remember Mike. I was at St. Joseph. Mike was at Christ the King, and we all reunited again at Shaw. But Mike Kane was a heck of a player, man. He really was, absolutely.
And Troy Lewis.
You mentioned his
Troy
name, but
Lewis.
Troy Lewis too, man.
Troy
Troy
Hall.
Lewis.
Yep.
Them guys were. Troy played Rover, and Troy would unload on your ass. But Troy was physical now. He was very, very physical. He was number one. I remember that.
Had that old school,
He also
remember the old school collar?
Timmy Bird's towel too.
Yeah, the white collar.
Yeah.
Troy had.
And Troy stole Timmy Bird's towel in the Dome when he was a senior. We got on the bus and said, East St. John just beat us. He said, I got one thing, Coach. I said, what? He showed me, I got his towel. That's lovely.
I remember us dying laughing because Pig Wilson had pushed Timmy Bird and started doing the ollie shuffle at him, and the ref was about to pull a flag, and Pig took off.
Hey, man, Pig came to a game 2 years ago. He's living in Georgia. He came to a game.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, look, I know we talked a lot about the old nostalgia days. We could probably spend another 3 hours talking about all that.
Hey, Jimmy, who we missed? We ain't missed nobody here, Jimmy.
Yeah, who we missed, man?
Mentioned Rennis. We got Wade Estopanol, Glenn Estopanol. I mean, there's just so many names.
Johnny Grove.
Johnny Grove.
Johnny at St. Joseph, absolutely. Yep.
Nicky,
man, big defensive tackle, man. Nick passed early in life, man.
I know, man. I know.
I remember I got Nick. I told Nicky to play. He didn't want to play. He didn't come out till like his junior year. Ended up being a really good player, man. Big Nick.
Fred
He's
Stroud.
goofy, man. He was funny as hell. Goofy, but boy, he could play though, man. He was tough.
Smith, remember he played for a while.
Darryl Santini. Fred.
Darryl Santini.
Fred. What was Fred's last name?
Stroud. Was it Fred Stroud, right?
Big Fred Stroud, yeah.
Man, he was crazy. He used to go 100 miles an hour out the parking lot every day when he played. Now someone would say, Coach, you got to talk to that Stroud boy. He gonna kill somebody.
Man,
I had never saw them names in forever, man. I hope they all doing well, man. But that was a tremendous bunch. Great bunch of me to come up as a coach with, for sure. For sure.
No doubt.
Well,
Jimmy, you ready to move on?
Yeah,
man.
Ready
to move on to the next block?
So, Coach, I got to ask you this question. It's December 2024. It's 3 years since you took the program back over. And let's be honest, the program had bottomed out. I mean, there were lots of rumors about the school enrollment, the football program, and you take the program over, first year quarterfinals, second year semifinals. There you are. You're standing in the chute of the dome. You're about to go face E.D. White. It's a noon kickoff. I got to ask you, Coach, when you're standing there about to lead the team on the field, what's going through your mind, and did you really think you could get there in 3 years?
Jimmy, I've been asked that before, and I'm going to tell you what went through my mind. I'm serious when I tell you this. What went through my mind was all of the great players that had played in that program. And even though I left for 20 years, when I came back in 2022, how many of the old players like yourself just welcomed me back and embraced me? And I remember telling our kids when we were that whole season about we are bringing Shaw back to where Shaw was. That's what we are doing. We are trying to restore the glory to this program that was at one time the most feared program in the city of New Orleans. And that's what was going through my mind. And then, of course, gratitude. Gratitude to Father Steve for giving me the opportunity to come back. Gratitude for all the assistants that joined me. Gratitude for the thousands of Shaw fans. That's all went through my mind. In fact, I was so caught up in that before the game. I had to get my game face back on when we ran out because it all happened so quick. And I'm gonna tell you, the first year, and I hate, I've never been too good with referees, but even the first year we lost at Turling's Catholic round 3. We throw the ball into the end zone and win the game. They don't call interference. If they call interference, we got first and goal at the 1. We're in the 70s that year. I mean, it's been a great ride with a lot of great kids, but it all starts with one guy, and that guy is Father Steve.
Father
Right.
Steve.
That's what it all starts with, and I was laying on my sofa about 20 feet from where I am right now in Ponchatoula, Louisiana. And my wife said, "You're gonna be about 400 pounds in 2 years if you don't do something." And I was like, "Well, you know what? I'm just gonna be 400 pounds." And then somebody knocked on my door, and it was Father Steve, and he was one of my former players who coaches with us now.
Right.
When he came, I thought he was coming. I thought he wanted me to help him pick the new coach because I had gotten a call from Mark Williams, even though Mark was gone, about, man, who you think we could hire. And never one time was the name Hank Tierney mentioned. I mean, I was done. I did 20 years of public school. 20 years of public school is rough. It's like
Right.
30 years of private school. And I ended in a good place, in a good school, in a good town. And I was done. When he knocked on the door and he started talking to me, and then when he offered me the job, I was like, "Father, man, you serious?" I was looking at my wife, and coming to find out, my wife knew he was coming. It was kind of a setup, and he was coming. The only person that didn't know was me, but my wife had told him, and I was not going to do it. I wasn't going to take the job, and I really wasn't. And then I talked to him about 3 hours. I mean, remember, he left here about 7 beers, and 3 hours later, he left here. And when he left here, I told my wife, I said, "Man, that guy's unbelievable. That guy's charismatic, man. I could
Yeah.
work for that guy." And I remember thinking that, And then, the weeks went on. He kept everything I tell him. He'd say, "Yeah." I said, "Father, how many coaches can I hire?" He said, "How many you want to hire?" I say four. He'd say four. He got four there. Whatever I asked him, he was committed. What he believed, Jimmy, and you know this, and Jay, you know this. He believed in a strong athletic program being
Yeah.
important to the school. That's what he believed. And because football was the first sport of the year, have a good football team, have a good school. The biggest enrollment in the history of Shaw was the August after we won the state championship in 1987. That's the most people ever took the entrance test to come into school. We're up almost 200 students now from where we were 4 years ago. And I'm not just
Wow.
saying it's because of football, but football had a whole lot to do with it. And man, he sat, and everything he told me that night in this house 4 years ago, everything he told me, he has followed through on. He allowed me to get a good coaching staff. He helped me raise money. I mean, Jimmy, y'all bought helmets one year. Shoot, y'all raised the money for that. I mentioned a little while ago we got 170 kids in the program. We only had 60 helmets, so we had to start
Right.
buying helmets. The old players came through for that, and I mean, we have built the program, and we have built it the right way, and a lot has to do with the tremendous leadership of Father Steve Ryan. But I'm gonna tell you too, and I probably shouldn't say this. I'm putting the hat on myself. The best team we ever gonna have at Shaw since I've been back is the one we're gonna have this year. We got everybody back.
Yeah.
We got 17 starters back. From a team that kind of snuck in the dome, yet at the same time really did win that game. We all know what happened. I'm
We
not
all
going.
know what happened.
Yeah.
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 I'm not going
But
to really talk about
Coach,
it.
I got to give you props. I got to give you big props on the way you handled the press conference after that game, which is, I thought it represented the Archbishop Shaw way of doing things because you were humble, you cared about the kids, and I thought the kids represented themselves good after something extremely tough like that. And just, it was really impressive the way you handled it, Coach.
Appreciate you saying
You
that.
know,
The year
yes,
before,
sir.
when we won the state championship, the year before, I had guys that had covered high school sports for like 20 years tell me the 5 kids that we had in the room the year we won were probably the most best, the most well spoken, most polite kids they've ever had. Even in victory, they were giving credit to the opponent and representing the school well. And Jimmy knows. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build. Sure, we want to win games. Sure, we want to win championships. But we're trying to put a product out from when they graduate from Shaw that can go out and represent the school and make a difference in the world. That's what we're trying to do. And as bad as that game was, I mean, I've had the referee send me a letter saying they screwed it, they blew it. Like
Right.
6 weeks
Right.
later, sent me a letter saying you shouldn't have got the timeout back. You didn't have to call, and now that's fine and well. But you know what? In the moment when it happened, it was a life lesson. As hard as it was
Yep.
to swallow, the kids are going to have things that happen to them in life. I mean, things are going to happen,
Right.
and you just got to deal with it. I mean, if you don't, what you gonna do? You got to learn to deal with the greatest adversity. And the weird thing was, it was a feeling of we just won the state championship, and then 30 seconds later, we did. We
Right.
took our phones off. I mean, it was over. 26 seconds.
Right.
But it is what it is. St. Charles was the state chairman. It wasn't their fault. That
Right.
guy called timeout. He saw the helmet go. I probably have done the same thing. He probably just frustrated. He was mad, all penalty, probably never thinking he would get the timeout back. But it happened, and then you move on.
Well, I could tell you that I heard you say no less than 4 or 5 times during the press conference about life lessons learned. This isn't the worst thing that's going to happen to you. This is a character builder moment for these young men to go throughout their life. They're just 17 years old. I think the tight end you told me had just turned 17. He was
They're
16,
17
I
the
think
day
you had
before
told
the
me.
game. Yep.
Exactly. So those are the kind of things, and Jimmy can tell you this because after the game, and I said, man, we're gonna have that young dude's back. So if I got to get in touch with Steve Mott and Nacho and Mike Nicari and Sean, I'm gonna get some centers with some hustle in their muscle that can help this young man out by just talking to him if we need to. But that's the kind of community we got with Archbishop Shaw now.
I'm gonna tell you, they formed a little organization they called We Stand Behind 50, and everybody in the school, the kids, the students, the community. I mean, that kid has not had a bad moment,
Right.
other than what he has to think about himself from anyone in that community. And the worst thing about it all, and this is the absolute worst thing, it wasn't taunting, it wasn't none of that. He just
No,
ran off the
celebrate.
field, play early, celebrate. That was now, should he have done that by the letter of the law? No. But man, that's a tough way to lose the state
Right.
championship.
Right.
But hey, it is what it is, and we have moved on. And like I said, we got a good team coming back. Really got a good team coming back. Because y'all know the deal. Week 10, St. Charles beat the hell out of us. Eh? We had 11
Yeah.
total yards. 11 total yards in that game.
Yeah.
They had 400,
Yeah.
And I remember when I saw the draw, the brackets, I remember telling Mike Baumeister, I said, you know what, we're going back to the dome. Because we had an easy draw here. It's weird because 2 years ago, we were the number 1 seed and had a hard draw. We were the 7th seed this year and had an easy draw. I mean, we had a bye.
Should be the opposite way.
We had played a Haynes team who was very average. Then we played a Loyola team. That's when I saw Shaw at the game. That
I was there
quarterback was
too,
up.
Coach.
Yeah, you was there. That's right. That kid led the state in passing. He don't play the game. He's out. He's got what he had minor on. So we get that. Now, between us three, they wouldn't have beat us anyway with him. But it probably would have been more of a game. And week 4, Vanderbilt Catholic was 13-1. They were just average. So here we are in the dome again. Man. But we played
Well,
so
I
good.
got to tell you,
surprised.
Coach Jimmy did a remote podcast interviewing for me outside of the stadium for the this is a Loyola game, right, Jimmy?
The Loyola Shreveport game.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jimmy, tell Coach what you called the Loyola team.
I called them Loyola, Jesuit, whatever the heck they call themselves. I don't know.
The Jets or something. Yeah.
I don't know what their name is, man. Some goofy
Jimmy said they're
name.
playing the Loyola Jesuit, whatever.
That's the West Bank mentality that we had when we went to the game. That's why we won. That's exactly what we thought too.
What's the word? Bus ride.
Yeah.
But again, y'all alluded to this when I think I'd been on board a week at Shaw, and they had a meeting, and in the meeting they were talking about Shaw being on the endangered species list for the Archdiocese of New Orleans. That's all the enrollment that got. And we're talking about what a great property. Isn't this nice? What a great property the Archdiocese would have to sell if they sold Shaw, at the corner of Barratown and West Bank Expressway. I mean, I remember I was like startled when I was in this meeting, like, whoa, what did they get me into? And then, Coach, first we'll merge with AOL. We don't want to do that. We don't want to merge. We want to be Archbishop Shaw. But that's how bad it got. But now, I mean, our enrollment's great. Our incoming class is great. I mean, we got tons of kids coming again, I mean, the future's very, very, very bright. And of course, we all got our fingers crossed that Faustino don't go nowhere. But that's what we hope and he stays. I appreciate you guys having me on because it's y'all part of it. Y'all part of what what the school's all about, and y'all part of why it's been successful. Guys like y'all that stay with the school once you get out. Stay with them and
Yes, sir.
I understand your son's is a very good baseball player. I also understand he was a leading tackler on his high school team. I set a record.
He's the all-time leading tackler, St. Pius X High School here in Houston, Texas. 260 tackles in high school.
That's
So
awesome.
he's a good football player. But well, Coach, I got one more quick question for you here. I think it's gonna tie it all in together here. But coaches are sometimes judged by their coaching tree, and your coaching tree is immense. From Lou Baldwin, Darren Barbier, Vance and Mickey. You've produced coaches that went on to win high school championships, college head coaches, NFL head coaches, and coordinators. But going back to those 70s and 80s and then jumping forward to today, when a young man comes to you and says, Coach Hank, I want to be a high school football coach just like you, what advice has changed and what has remained the same from those 50 years?
Well, first of all, I try to talk them out of it because I say you don't want to be poor the rest of your life. But other than that, we have a couple of young ones now that I think are going to be really, really good coaches. The thing I tell them is that do it because, you love it. Do it because that's what you want to do. It's not something, you can do part-time. My whole deal is if you're going to do it, throw yourself into it and then do it for the right reasons. And the right reasons are, and I tell my team this, I don't tell them enough. I try to tell them 20 times a year, but I don't tell them enough. If the only thing I ever do for you is make you a better football player, then I'm failing you. If I don't make you a better person and using football as the vehicle to do that, then I'm failing you. And that's what I tell young coaches. Get into it because you want to help young people become the best person they can be. Obviously, learn the X's and O's, learn the position, and there's no success for anything like winning. I mean, guys come back all the time and they come back and they talk about what Jimmy was talking about, a little while ago about how much we won and the big games we played in and all. So winning's important. It's very important, but it's not the only important thing. Come back because you want to give back and coach because you want to help young people. And Jimmy started out coaching, and Jimmy would have been a fantastic coach. I remember shaking hands with Jimmy after a Jamboree game when he was at Higgins. I remember thinking what a great coach he was going to be. But then he ended up going into service. But that's the kind of guys that coach, and do it because you want to do it because your heart's in it, and do it because you want to help young people. And if that's the reasons, then you're going to be a good coach. And we need coaches, fellas. We need it more now than ever before. I mean, there's nobody getting into coaching. It's horrible. It's a shame. Not many people are getting into education, and not many people are getting into coaching.
Well, I can tell you, Coach, when you came back on, I mean, I'm sure Jimmy felt the same way when I got word of it. I think Mike Stahl had called me up to tell me about it. He had called me to tell me. Big Mike, yeah, Greg's brother. And Mike called me. It's like, J-Dog, you heard Coach Hank is coming back to Shaw? And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah. I'm like, and I remember saying 3 words, thank you, Jesus. Because boy, bad.
Man, hey,
But man,
why
it's
you
just,
saying that? Let's talk about this thing coming up in Houston before we get off. And we're excited about that.
we gonna bring that up. I ain't gonna
Okay,
let that
good,
slide.
good,
Don't worry
good.
about that. Because
Yeah,
you're gonna see
good,
him there
good.
too. And but man, I just remember just thinking, thank God Father Steve had that vision, man. And he knew about the things because I think one thing that makes a lot of things possible with what you're having to deal with is having that strong alumni base. Because I can tell you, I did some research into things when you came back and, went back and looked at old yearbook stuff and all that and talked to a few guys. And you look every alumni picture I see you in with the Shaw alumni guys, you look like the happiest dude in the world. You really do. And you can tell when people fake smile, they're like, and there you look like your heart's full of joy. And it's really, really cool to see those kind of things. And I remember another thing as you were talking in your press conference when you first came on, because I think you said, why do we need a press conference? Miss Joanne said, you go and do the press conference. And you said we're gonna build a fence around the West Bank. That's what we're gonna do over here.
Hey,
Because
I gotta interrupt you 1 second. We had shirts
go ahead.
made. And we had shirts and we gave them out and the shirts said the bridge is closed.
Oh, man, I love that.
The bridge is closed and we had a picture of Shaw. We had a fence around the Mississippi River Bridge. Because
I love it.
in the same press conference, I said, I'm watching the Super Bowl, and I forgot the DB's name. He went to Rummel. He's covering Joe Burrow, the receiver,
Jamal Chase. Yeah.
Jamar
Jamar
Chase.
Chase.
Yeah.
The DB is covering the receiver. They both from Herrera, and they both went to Rummel. And I
That
said
wouldn't
that.
have happened. That never would have happened back in the
This
day.
happened.
No.
We can't let this happen. And look, Jay Rupp was one of my assistants. Jay was the AD at Rummel. He called me. He said, "Man, you can't be saying that," but he was laughing. I said, "Jay, the bridge is closed, buddy. The bridge is closed."
But you look at people like Jimmy's son, the amount of talent he has playing football. Mike Toops' boy was a really good ball player at Holy Cross. Blake, he was really good.
So they
I
had a
mean,
lot of them,
outside of
man. They had a
outside
shoot.
out, outside of football.
Rennis's little nephew beat us one year, Brother Martin, playing ball game.
Yeah.
He
Blair.
beat us.
Yep.
Blair ended up being a great
Yep.
baseball player at LSU. He beat us, buddy. I mean, if we and that's what we did when y'all were in school. We kept the West Bank kids on the West Bank.
No doubt.
If we can do that, some of the kids are always going to go to Jesuit. That's going to happen. We know that. But if we can keep the West Bank kids on the West Bank, Shaw will always be successful.
Without a doubt.
Probably
And I mean,
10 years ago, we had the Ponchatoula Jamboree and Dallas Sal's in it. Well, the current head coach at Jesuit was the head coach at Dallas Sal. So he's playing in my Jamboree at Ponchatoula. His name's Manali. I said, Coach, how many you got any West Bankers on your team? He said, I got 9 that start.
Oh,
9
wow.
kids at Dallas Sal from the West Bank will start. And that was Shaw winning 1 game. You know, I'm like, man, I don't know what's going
That's
on.
got to
But
stop.
this is not good. Yeah. That's the first thing I said. I told Steve, we go to every school. We go in every school,
Right.
and we're gonna find out what's the problem and what's the reason.
And it's not just football; it's all the sports, you know. And Jimmy knows this. I'll just use this as an example because I'm really proud of him. My youngest son went to Holy Cross. He was a drumline captain at LSU, and he
Sure.
should have been at Shaw. So it's you think about all these kids that were excelling, and they're all West Bank kids that went to Jesuit, Holy Cross, Rummel, you know,
Newman.
Brother Martin.
That guy's
you know?
going to Newman, you know?
Newman, yeah.
The kid,
That would
the
have
kid
never
was
happened back in the day, you know?
our safety this year that's going to LSU is a senior in his past team. He went to Newman in 9th and 10th grade. And we got him back for his junior year, you know. But you're right. They had so many. I remember Jason Brown, the first day I was in my office, Jason Brown walked up to me and he gave me a list. And the list had 34 names on it. And it was 34 kids who were playing on the East Bank, should have came to Shaw. And it was like great players. Like, I'm like, wait, almost 2 running backs? Olivia Marrera? Yeah, both of them.
Yeah,
You
how
know?
about that? Yeah.
I was like, man, it's got to stop. It has got to stop. But I mean, look, we all can say all we want, but we know what West Bank kids can do. We
Yeah.
know that. Y'all
Without a
West
doubt.
Bank guys, y'all know, man. That's what Shaw was. You know, West Bank. West Bank. We had maybe had 5 kids I could think of in my life that lived on the East Bank that went to Shaw, but not very many.
Wasn't many.
I mean, we go
No, wasn't
West
many.
Bank guys, man, West Bank kids, and man, God bless you if you went to Shaw. Remember the ones, Jimmy, you remember this, when we'd play teams and they'd have West Bankers, we'd always point them out to y'all. And look
Yeah,
at
we knew who they were.
he wish he'd have went to Shaw, and boy, we'd be trying to kill him in the game.
That's exactly right. Tommy Clapp and
Oh,
Mike
yeah, no doubt,
Gambaluka and
no
all
doubt.
those. We knew who they
Gambaluka,
were.
yeah.
You
Ernie,
guys always
D.
made it
I
so
Sammy
we-
Martin. Sammy Martin was one of them.
Sammy
man.
Martin.
Sammy
Yep.
Martin.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we
Yep.
had Philip Ball and they had Sammy Martin. I remember that. Yeah.
Yep. Philip's another one, man. He was fast, boy.
Philip could run,
you know?
man. Philip was something, man. Philip was
Trey,
special.
Trey Dufresne. Trey could run. Trey was
Trey
fast.
could
Trey
run. Glenn
Dufresne.
could run. Yes,
Yep.
indeed. No doubt.
Yep.
No doubt.
No doubt about that. Well, look, Coach, we're gonna bring it to the last block here we got for you, and this is what I was looking forward to asking you at this point in time. It's like, okay, so you're gonna be at Shaw for X amount of time, and you guys will figure that out as you move forward. And again, we're just so thankful you're back. And
So listen, I'm
now
gonna tell
Shaw
you,
has a.
as long as I'm healthy, I'm gonna be at Shaw. My
That's what
health
I'm
is good.
talking
I'm
about.
happy. I'm gonna be there. Now you know how it is. We don't really have control over that, but
Right.
as long as that's good, I'm good. And we got a bunch of guys on my staff that could just keep it going right along. But anyway, go ahead.
Right on. So, what do you see in the path forward for you and Miss Joanne in the next chapter after football's over? And I know you're gonna be on the couch, and I know all that stuff. But
Well, you
how's
know,
Miss Joanne, and what do you think's the future is going to be for you guys after when you really
Oh, you-
retire?
you already know I'm not fixing anything. I'm not gonna go be a handyman or anything. No way. You already know I'm not. They're not gonna hire me to just fix the fence in the neighborhood or anything. That's not gonna happen. My wife is retired. She had a great job. She worked 33 years for the state. She worked for the state of Louisiana, Charity Hospital in radiology. She actually was in charge of the radiology department, but she's retired. So she spends 3 of the 5 days at Shaw. She's at Shaw as much as I'm at Shaw. She was at Shaw for the mother-son breakfast Saturday. She does all the team meals. So, she is enjoying this as much as I am, if not more, because she still has her West Bank friends back from 25 years ago. Now they're grandmothers, but they have grandkids on the team, so it's kind of nice, so we still all back to one big happy family again. And we go to church on the West Bank. I mean, we do a lot of things on the West Bank. I'm going to tell you, honestly, if it was up to me, we'd move to the West Bank. but we have a really nice house in Ponchatoula, and you can't get the same value house right now on the West
Right.
Bank unless you move to Old Gretna, and then they cost about, they twice as much as this house. We built a really nice house here, but that's
Right.
how attached I still am to the West Bank. But y'all know this is kind of a standing joke, but I sleep on the West Bank during the season. I sleep in the
Right.
pre-side,
Right.
and I stay there and come home just on Sundays. They feed me. I mean, they so good to me. It's unbelievable.
Right. Right.
To me, don't like that coffee. There's that coffee shop right across the street that's open 24 hours. I'm sleeping by about 9. I'm up about 3. I'm drinking coffee at 4, and I'm watching films. So I'm set. I got a good deal for me. And then, like I said, my wife loves it over there. She'll want me to go longer than I want to. Now we'll get disgusted. Like when we lost to St. Charles, we got shut out 3 straight games. We
Yeah.
got shut out.
Yeah.
Rummel shut us out. Belche shut us out. St. Charles shut us out. I said, man, I had enough. This game, I'm passing by. I'm not doing this no more. She said, oh, yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're not quitting until I tell you can quit. But
Right.
hopefully, when we done, we'll still be able to support the school. We'll still be able to, maintain our friendships. That's the other thing, man. I've seen so many people that I hadn't seen. I was going from 2001 to 2022, but I've run across so many wonderful people that I just lost touch with. Because not only did I went to West Sheffield for 6 years, but then we moved to Ponchatoula. So then I didn't see
Right.
anybody. I mean, I didn't see nobody, but I see everybody now. I mean, it's great. It truly is great to see everybody. And I see Jimmy and Sean in games. Like guys that play with them come to games. Joe Rigney, Buddy Rabelais, Leon Poche, they come to games. We take pictures all the time. That bunch, There's
Nice.
always alumni there. Kendall Bussey don't miss a game. Pat Riley comes almost every game. I mean,
Big
so
Pat.
many
Yep.
old players come to games. It's great. And it's just one family. It's just one big Shaw family. And there's no substitute for that. I mean, there's absolutely no substitute for being able to work at a place that you really love. There's nothing better than that. So I'm very blessed. And I'll be the first to tell you, I went a long time not liking Shaw, being very disenchanted with the whole thing with my situation. And then Father Steve brought me back, and it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me that he did this for me in my later years. So hey, I'm thrilled to death to be back. I'm thrilled to death to come across the people I've come across, and I'm very much indebted to the wonderful place that we call Archbishop Shaw Hospital. And guys like y'all, the reason. I mean, seeing Jimmy and Sean, that was great, man. I mean, we swapped stories for 2 hours when we had that reunion. We had a blast, man. We had a blast with that thing. Robbie Sanchez. I remember
Big Robbie.
Big Robbie running out for his first press, Jimmy. You probably forgot this. He was a freshman, overweight, didn't know whether he wanted to be out there. He fell down. Everybody ran over him. He was like crying. I was like, he ended up being a monster. He ended up being a freaking monster, being a really good player. We talk about that all the time. And Robbie don't forget nothing. He knows players and games. He remembers
Yeah. Oh,
everything.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
we reminisce all the time. And I love to do that because I can't remember what I ate for breakfast, but I remember the pass from Joey Popham to Megan Williams like it was yesterday.
Oh,
I remember the
man.
sprint
Yeah.
draw behind Jimmy Hitch, and Toops walked in. He walked in the end zone and handed it to the referee. I remember stuff like that.
Yep.
And I'll never forget stuff like that. It's great. It's just fantastic.
And I think Mike Toops was the only one. And I think in the St. Aug game, I seen you, he ran for a touchdown, he caught a touchdown, and he threw for a touchdown, if I remember right. I think he
Mike
did all
Toops is the
3 in
best
that one
athlete in the
game,
school,
Jimmy.
man.
Do you remember that, Jimmy?
He did. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
I don't know
Ran,
if it was
caught.
against. It might have been against Aug.
I'm almost sure it was against St. Aug in the dome.
He was the fastest guy in the school, the best football player. Mike Toops was a spectacular athlete. And he was not
Yep.
little. He was 190 pounds when 190 pounds was big.
Well, we called him
But
Superman for a reason.
Mike Toops was, I try to tell people about Mike Toops. They don't believe me, man. But Mike
Yeah.
Toops he's one of a kind, man. That guy he was special, man. He was a special guy. But Coach Z loved Toops, man. I got to tell y'all a good Coach Z Toops story. Y'all love this one.
Please.
So this is a great one. Jimmy, you going to remember this, Jimmy. Y'all, how many years apart?
Class 82, class 83. So it was my junior year, his senior year.
You'll definitely remember this. Coach Z institutes the summer workout rule. Every
The
time
Russian.
I think there were going to be 20 workouts or 24 workouts in the summer, you got to miss 4. But every one you missed other than that, you had to run. And it was going to be like you were going to run hundreds after practice. Toops made the first one and then missed 19 in a row. He didn't come to one workout in the summer. He made the first one, missed 19 in a row. Now, what he was doing was he was paying for his tuition because they got him a job and he was hanging
Right.
sheetrock somewhere and he was using the money to pay for his tuition to come to school. But he didn't come. So, man, of course, I was the assistant that all the players liked. They would tell me, man, where's Toops? Where's Toops? You know, and we got back at 2-a-days started. Toops ain't got to run. Toops missed out, which is the right thing to do. I mean, Tools was a player. He didn't run like everybody else. So I was always the one that had to bring stuff to Coach Z. And I'd say, Coach, you going to run Toops? You know, I was always kind of guarded when I told Coach Z. And he thinks, I mean, he might grab you something. He's a strong man. You know, I said, you going to
Yeah.
run Toops? And he said, I'm going to run him. About 2 or 3 days later, I'd say, Coach, you going to run Toops? And finally, after about the 4th, 5th time, he said, damn it, I'm going to run him. I'm going to run his ass 25 times a game on a Friday night. Don't ask me that again. I'm going to run him 25 times a game. That's how I'm going to run him.
He sure as hell did too.
He did. Jimmy, you know, Coach Dowden's back coaching with us. You knew that?
What's that, Coach?
Lou Dowden's back coaching with us.
I heard.
Yes.
Big Lou is back.
Big Lou, yeah. Doing a hell of a
Sweet
job at our
Lou.
defensive lineman, too. Yes.
All right,
That's
man.
fantastic.
Well, Coach, I got to tell you, I don't know if you really grasp how much you guys coming to Houston meant to a lot of us, because I didn't realize how many alumni guys we had over here, and a bunch of us went to the game. And Mike Stahl actually came over and picked me up, and we drove to the game together. And
We
man,
managed to lose that game that night, too. We managed to lose that game, too. I know it was terrible.
and I know we all know we should have won that game. Jimmy was getting so worked up in the crowd. I thought we're going to have to stop him from going down on the field. He was getting so worked up in that game. Jimmy's like, man, they got to do this. Jay, I'm telling you, they need to do that.
We were
You know,
bad.
but man, it just,
we played, if you remember, we dropped the pass on the last, with a minute to go in the game to put it in overtime.
yeah. Yep.
But anyway, that team ended up winning the district team. They had some good players, man, that team. But anyway, go ahead.
No, that's okay. But my point with that is that it brought a lot of us together that hadn't seen each other in a long time. And man, it just kind of manifested to all of us really staying in touch with each other now. We all text message each other and, you know, hang out. And the only thing we got to deal with is Troy Cotton, you know. Come on, Big Troy.
My man, Troy, absolutely.
Big Troy, ain't never a boring moment, man.
Absolutely
I got to give him props
yes.
because Daryl Santani just wrote his book, and we rekindled friendships with a lot of people. And also the big crawfish boil we have coming up next month, I wanted to talk about because you and Father Steve Ryan are going to be making the road trip over to come hang out with a bunch of us over here. And we're going to do like a little fundraiser for the program and for the school. And man, everybody is looking forward to it. Spouses and everybody. Jimmy, what do we call it? The Shaw, Texas alumni? What do we call it, Jimmy? Something like that?
First annual Archbishop Shaw, Texas Alumni Crawfish Boil at my house.
There we go. It is Jimmy is hosting. Number 64 is hosting us, so we're gonna have a great event. I'm gonna be DJing it, and I'm gonna walk around with the camera and mic and interviewing people throughout the time there. So we're going to make it almost like a mini Shawpalooza while we're there, man. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. And Daryl Santani, man, I got to give Daryl props. He's key in organizing a lot of things. So you talk about organization and all that, man, he is all over this like white on rice. He's organizing, putting things together, and I think it's going to be a fantastic event. And we are all looking forward to all of y'all coming over.
Daryl came and spoke at Career Day. Man,
he did tell me that.
He did a fantastic, and he gave every senior on the team a copy of his book. That was very, very nice. Every one of them. And I would tell you, I'm proud of him because, you know, he was one of them hard-nosed West Bank kids. But, man, he's turned his life. He's had a tremendously successful life. That's just what it's all about, too, man. But we're looking forward to coming to Houston now. We're all excited about that. There's a lot of guys. I didn't realize how many either, just for the game. When we played the game, I got out there for about 45 minutes before the game. But man, that was amazing how many people were there just for the game. How many Houston Eagles were there, you know? So I'm very much looking forward to it, and it's going to be a great time, no doubt.
And think about it, Coach. If you wouldn't have come back, none of that would have happened, man.
Nothing.
None of that would have happened.
Well, it was as much as y'all loved y'all school. That's how much I loved y'all, and how much I loved your school as well. You know, so it's been, I think, a good thing for everybody. Whatever we can do, right up to the time, you know, that I'm not there anymore. Whatever we can do to, you know, help the school, we want to do it. And I'm gonna tell y'all right now, you'll be hearing about it a lot later because we're gonna try to make a big push. We're gonna start a huge campaign the year to get turf. That's gonna be the next big thing.
Coach,
pay Father Steve's building, which he's got the money for, the student commons. He has the money. He's going to start construction on that. But we're going to try to get a lot of people involved in the turf deal. A lot of people, because Shaw's losing a lot of revenue not having turf. Y'all can think
Right.
about it, all the events that they can have there at
Sure.
that great location. If they had that, that's going to be the next big thing. And I hope to still be around to see that through, because that's going to be a fantastic deal.
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, before we start wrapping up here, I want to give some props to Jason Amadio. Man, he has been key in supporting the alumni with things and just making sure we have a good connection with communications with Shaw and the alumni and to the program. And his son was a damn good player on that team too. And
Did everything for 3 years. Harold did everything. The 85-yard run that gave us the lead in the dome, he threw the key block. He sprung the kid. He split his hips and blocked the kid and turned it. You know what we didn't do? We didn't talk enough about Truck.
right.
Let me tell you what Truck did for me. I'm on a job in 1983. I'm on a job for 3 days. And he used to call me Hammer. I don't even remember Hank Aaron.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Hammer Hank. And for some reason, Truck always called me Hammer. Hammer. He comes and he's a manager at LSU. And he says, "Let me see your helmets." It's like March. Him and Wayne, they go, "Oh, your helmets are terrible." They came on a Saturday and they spent 12 hours and they repaired about 70 Shaw helmets. Him and Wayne and Richie Aberdeen, who's a Rydell salesperson now. Oh, and that's just, he did a golf tournament for me. He did 1,000 things for me when I was a Shaw. I mean, I'm telling you, he wasn't that Shaw now, but I'm getting head coach. I mean, he did 1,000 things for me. He wasn't there. The golf tournament we have now to make so much money, Truck started it. And let me also put this to rest, how Truck got his name, Truck. Y'all talked
Let it
about
Truck
it in the
Robinson, baby.
podcast, but this is the real reason he got it. He's a freshman at Shaw, and I am the C team coach. There's the varsity, there's the JV, and there's the C team. And the C team is freshmen and a couple of sophomores. And I'm the coach. And Truck is a starter on the C team. Well, you ever play basketball with Truck, he never saw a shot he didn't like. Okay.
Right.
He
And never shut up.
and shot
Talking the
and
whole
shot.
time.
Well, that year, he would make a shot, and every time he'd shoot, if it went in, he'd yell, "Truck Robinson," and he'd run down the court. He would scream, "Truck Robinson." And from that year on, everybody started calling him Truck. And and it's funny because when at my press conference 4 years ago, Chuck was there, of course. And he came up to me after, and we talked about an hour and a half. And look, he had plans then. He had plans for turf. He was working at a turf company. He said, "Man, we're going to get turf. We're going to have it in 2 years." I mean, he was just incredible. And again, our relationship goes back to him in 5th grade at St.
That's
Joe's.
crazy.
And
That's
how
crazy.
long we've been 50 years. We've been friends. But what an incredible, and so many things I didn't know he did because I was gone. I was across the lake. He got the lights in the baseball stadium.
The baseball stadium. I was going to bring that up.
The fence around
Yeah.
the football field. All that stuff. He's the one that made contact with Milton Retief. And Milton Retief was the one that built All Saints Hall. Milton Retief told me that. He said, "Man, you don't see Truck anymore?" Like, fooling me. Like, how do you know Truck? And then he told the story, But I mean, just Shaw has not done enough for Truck. Now we already have the stuff to do. We're naming the equipment room. Jimmy, the equipment room in the gym. Back there, we're naming that after. We
Yeah,
already
man.
have a
Yeah, I
plaque.
remember
We have
that.
all
Yeah.
that. We're just waiting to get his wife in town to do it when she's here. But that's
Okay.
we want to have a Truck walk in the stadium. I mean, there's a lot of things that we still plan to do for him, and he deserves it because of everything he's given back. But this festival they have now to make so much money, Truck started that. I didn't know that either. They said Truck started doing the festival 15 years ago. So I mean, just an amazing guy, as y'all know. I know we said
No doubt. No doubt.
but we
No,
probably
we
didn't say
need
enough
to.
about it.
We need to. And I can tell you, I know I had 4 guys in the show that day for him when we did the podcast last season. And I can do 10 of those shows at least with 4 guys each time, different
I
people
thoroughly
every
enjoyed
time.
that show. That was great. That was fantastic.
Thank you, Coach. I really appreciate it. I tell you what, that was one of the most heartfelt shows that I've done, without a doubt. And again, Renee gets credit for supporting and helping me out with it, and making sure his wife was okay with everything. And I recruited the guys to be on it, and I was going to have my people with Theron, Theron Vince, a big Theron, and Prestonburg,
I
and
used to call him
you know,
T-Bomb there.
T-Bob, Big
Hey,
Terry, right? The
now
Turk.
look, Trump's family at the festival every year, they run the beer booth. And they have been doing that since we started the festival. They also do a hole in the golf tournament, which is the Trump Memorial Golf Tournament as well. The golf tournament we
Right.
have now, we named Truck.
Renee just sent me something with that. Actually, I need to
He
look at
was the
that.
one
You
that
know.
started it. So they
Yep.
also worked that. So, I mean, his family's been wonderful, man. Wonderful. Let
Coach,
me ask you a question. Who was your position coach? I was trying to think of that. Who was your
My
position
position
coach?
coach, sophomore year was Jeff Brock and then Joe Skiro.
Joe Skiro, that's right. I knew Joe
Joe
Skiro. I
Skiro.
couldn't think of Jeff Brock. That's what I couldn't think of. Okay.
Jeff Brock.
Rock. Okay. Big Joe
Coach,
Skiro.
I'm going to see you here in about 2 weeks. I'm going to the Hall of Fame banquet. My wife and I are going to come in. Sean's coming
Yeah, for
in.
Miss Edith.
We're all going to be there for Miss Edith. Salute.
Man, that's great, man. Let me tell you the Edith story. I had summer camp, all right? We'd start 7 o'clock. We started. Edith Whiting would practice them girls at 5:30 here. And I had to turn the air conditioner on for them in the gym and boy, if I didn't, well, I was going to catch out for Miss Edith there. She was tough now. She was by far
She didn't play.
the toughest
She didn't
coach at
play.
Shaw here. Wasn't even close here. She was something, boy. She ran that thing like the Marines, man. She was incredible. She used to get the merits and everything. And then her daughters
She
all
did.
worked for me at summer camp. They were fantastic
Right.
to us. They were tremendous. And that was somebody we didn't mention, Lou Dennis. Well, Dennis played with you, Jim.
Yep. Well, Coach, me, my brother Sanchez, we were all those first counselors. Nikki Gidsby,
That's right.
for all your first counselors. You
That's
paid us
right.
$40 a week. $40 a week.
Yeah. And I probably thought that was too much. 40 a week.
Yeah.
I think we went up to 100 or something. That was the first day camp. You correct. That was the first one. That is exactly right.
I'll never forget my first time I met Coach Hank. We were upstairs playing a pickup game at the gym in basketball. And Coach goes, Budwan, where are you from? Where do you live at? I said, Woodby. He goes, oh, them John Eric boys? Yes, sir. Well, you don't cuss. I hear you cursing again up in here. You're going to be going there. And like, yes, sir. Oh, man. Fun times, man. Fun times.
Great time. Great times.
Fun times. So, well, Jimmy, we're going to be wrapping up some things here, man. You had anything we missed? Any last thing for Coach here?
Nah, Jay, it's been a great event, and hopefully we get a lot of views out there in podcast world. Coach, I'm in my early 60s, but starting to think a little bit about retirement. I shared with Miss Joanne about a year ago at the game in Shreveport, but I need something to do when I do retire, and I'd like to write your biography, Coach. I would like to write the Hank Tierney story.
Hey, but guess what? You got it. You got it. I'd love you to do that. I would love you to do that.
No money, Coach. I don't want to make a penny from it. Well, if the book sells, it's all going to the Field Turf Project.
Going to the turf. There
we go.
Absolutely.
And look,
it ain't about money. It's about giving back.
I appreciate that, Jimmy. That means a lot to me. I appreciate you saying that.
Coach Jimmy brought that up to me about a month or so ago. He brought it up to me, and he's like, what do you think? I said, brother, I think that's a great idea. He said, you think Coach is going to like it?
Absolutely.
I said, hell yeah, he will, man. He'll be humble and say, oh, okay, we'll see. But he'll like it. And I tell you what, the thing Coach will like the most about it is it'll be one of his former players and students that's doing it, somebody that knows him,
Only thing is we have a renowned author now that's already written a book. If Darryl Teddy wants to do it.
Well, Darryl, he titles his book, So You Think You Want to Be. So maybe we'll give him props, Jimmy. So you think you want to be Coach Hank?
Yeah, that's it.
No, but Jimmy knows.
I appreciate you saying that. We definitely can do that.
Yeah, man.
I don't know if it'll sell, but we can try to. Of course, some of the stories in there it probably would sell.
Right. Well, I can tell you, Coach Jimmy would have the support of a whole Shaw community doing something like that. Now, I think it's a great endeavor, and I think he's just the guy to tackle it. Coach, did we miss anything with you today?
No, I'm good. I think we touched it. I just hope we ain't hurt nobody's feelings that we didn't say their names, because there's been a whole lot of guys go through that, man. As I sit back and think about it. Now, I'm still good friends with Sidney Goodrow. What a great football player he was. He played
Sidney's good people, man. Big Sid.
What a great player he was. And them guys in the early Shaw teams, like you said, Randy Camp, Paul Davis. I mean, Mark Wilson, Emil Deppman, them guys. Angelo Provenzano was probably the goodest football player I've ever seen.
Gary Gregory.
Gary Gregory.
Forgot about him.
Offensive lineman. No doubt, man. No doubt. Glenn Moore. The late Glenn Moore. What a great offensive lineman. That whole bunch. I had to be pretty good friends with Ed Ogeron over the years, and he was on that Salsa Foods. And I think you and I talked about that. And
we sure did the other day.
He said when he was a junior, He said they thought they had no chance to beat Shaw. He said Shaw walked in, they were in the locker room, they were looking, and they were like, Coach, look at them guys. They look like pro players. You know, you never know if you're going to win a game or not. Shaw was up by 21 points, 21 points. Before came through an interception in the end zone. They would have been up by 28 points in the fourth quarter, and we lost the game. You never know.
Yeah.
I mean, one year we were 12-0, and John McDonough beat us at Shaw when Mickey Joseph was a senior. John McDonough beat us 13-12. So, you know, you never know. You think, you know, even when you have the best team, you don't always win.
Right.
And we had five teams at Shaw that were better than both teams that won the state championship. Maybe more than five, but those two teams won. You know, you just never know. That's what makes it so fun and so interesting. You know, how kids respond, how they handle pressure. That's just what makes coaching. It makes coaching and playing worthwhile. That's what it's about.
No doubt about that. And we know there's some guys' names we didn't mention, but you never know. We might do this thing again.
We apologize, guys. We like to mention every one of y'all, you know. If you're on your team, who we miss, man? Because you're the ones going to catch it from your teammates. Why didn't you say my name? Who we miss?
Mark, we mentioned Mark Dufresne. Chester there?
Chester.
Big Chester.
Let me
Big
tell you what
Chester.
Chester does. I go to it every year. The grand prize is a fishing trip with Chester.
There you go.
Every year, so
There you
back
go.
there. Big Chester takes a guy.
That's another Our Lady of Prom Sucker guy right there. Chester.
Jimmy and Dennis Richard.
Jimmy and Dennis.
He was Prom Sucker too, Pete, huh? Rosenbaum?
Yeah, Pete was too. Yeah, he sure was. Pete Rosenbaum
Robert
was.
Smith
Definitely.
was Prom Sucker also,
Robert
right?
Smith was. Yeah, Robert Smith was.
Well, I got one. Bill Bopple.
Bill Bopple.
Oh man, yeah. How can we say Crawford without saying Bopple? You know, them two.
I coached the linebackers on that defense. So I had Bopple, Darren Adams, Peter Rosenbaum, and I'm missing one. Who I'm missing? Maybe Shreve started as a young guy on that
Mark
team.
Shreve. Mark Shreve. Mark was good.
Mark was a great player. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But man, that was a good bunch to coach, man. I enjoyed the heck out of coaching them guys. Joe Proud. Coach Valder was the D-line coach. He always talks about that defense, how good it was. Yeah. Jimmy, who was the running backs on that team? Who I'm missing?
David Buggett.
Buggett from Algiers.
Buggett, yep. Another
David
Algiers.
Buggett, Glennis Stopenall. Trey ran the ball a little bit.
Trey ran a little bit.
Trey was fast,
a fullback,
man.
and then he played linebacker when he was a senior.
Yep.
I tell you, just for the Sugar Bowl, I was in Shreveport, but for the Sugar Bowl, Sancho has a suite in the Superdome, and it wasn't being used, so he invited our whole coaching staff to go. That's a
Wow.
Sugar Bowl, and they all went, and they said they had all they could eat, food, drinks, everything. Sancho has a big, really nice suite in the Superdome. So I keep up with him a little bit, Ron. We don't probably talk as much as we should.
That's another Our Lady of Prom Sucker. Ron Sancho, another Our Lady of Prom Sucker.
He's doing very well in the business. Defensive end, Darren Moore. Him and Pitt were the defensive ends. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
And when you,
I think we got them all now. Joey Popham and Mickey were the quarterbacks. That's right.
Yep.
Doug Adams, Doug playing a little bit too with that bunch, huh?
Doug,
well, Darren played at Tulane, didn't he? Yeah, Darren. Doug played at Tulane.
Doug played at Tulane. Started out at Rice. Went to Tulane.
Doug was another one. Fast, man.
Have you stayed up with Darren Adams? Man,
not so much, Coach.
Man, I saw him one time in Baton Rouge. Man, I mean, he wouldn't let me spend a penny. I mean, we had a great time. Look, Darren remembered everything too. He remembered playing some games.
Yeah.
He was giving me signals. This was Rover Fire and all. We had a great time, man. We had a good time.
Darren's good people, man. We used to spend some time together when we were younger.
I coached the youngest one too, who was a really good player. What was the youngest one's name? He passed away too.
He passed away. He sure did.
It was Darren, Doug, and I can't think of his name. Brett Adams.
Brett, yeah. Brett. He worked in the oil field.
Brett was a linebacker on that really, really good Shaw team in 1989. He was the captain of the team, and he was a really good player.
Yep.
And he had
no doubt.
And passed on surgery, like had a heart attack or something, doing surgery. Terrible, man. Very, very young age too. Very
young. Oil field guy too, man. Damn. Yeah, I remember that. That was sad.
We go. Y'all better tell the police to be ready when we come up there.
That's what we doing, man.
It's gonna be a West Bank deal now. Y'all already know that, right?
We're gonna have fights in the street, Coach. Street fight.
You know that. Hey, Coach, we pull up if Jimmy's taping his wrist. You know we back.
Jimmy, I'm gonna bring tape here. So you
got it, Coach.
I'm gonna bring it for you.
Well, we got to get out of this. So, man, because we could keep going on for hours here. But again, I want to thank both of y'all. Jimmy, really appreciate your time with co-hosting today. You've been great with helping out with the podcast, being a contributor and a guest on it. So again, thank you for everything that you've done to help prepare for this episode. So it's just really appreciated. And Coach, there's nothing more I can say. Just thank you so much. And, I wanted to make sure we gave props to Coach Z, and we sure did. And, I know he was your mentor, and man,
Absolutely.
just a wonderful, wonderful guy. He helped set the tone and the foundation at Archbishop Shaw, and you've carried it. You took the torch and carried it, and you've just
When
done
they when they
phenomenal. And
when they named the field after, somebody called me and said, "Are you for that?" I said, "Let me tell you something. If there's not a Joe Zimmerman, there's not a Hank Tierney." And that's how strong I feel about Joe Zimmerman. Anything that I've accomplished at all as a coach is because of what he taught. And I'll always be indebted to the man. And like I said, he's still in my life, and he always will be. Hey man, thank
yes,
y'all
sir.
very much. It's been great.
Yes, sir. And Coach,
Thank
it's
you,
just
Coach.
one thing I want to tell you about this episode with the research I've done and the people I've talked to about, having you on the show, and everybody was so excited about seeing it, is that one thing you can walk away from this podcast today is that the one thing that I've seen as a common denominator with everything is you have one of the most important things in life that I think people cherish the most, and you have people who care, because there's so many people that care about you, Coach, and just their faces lit up when Jimmy knows this, when we were talking to people about you being on the show, their faces lit up. They can't wait to see it. And just instantly people start telling stories, and it's always positive and smiling and laughing. There's never a sad moment. And like I said, when I looked at the pictures of you with guys that were alumni with the Fourcades and all them and the Josephs and everything, you just have this genuine smile in all those pictures, and it's so easy to tell. Again, just thank you for taking the time, and thank you to Miss Joanne for being in the background and supporting everything. I know she's your rock and everything she does, and she never gets enough props. But a big salute to Miss Joanne, and again, can't thank you enough, sir. We really appreciate you being on. So
Yeah, thank
thanks,
you for
Coach.
inviting me. Thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure. I'll see you guys in a few short weeks.
See you,
Well,
Coach.
one thing
God bless.
before we go, I just want to remind everybody to catch us on your favorite podcast platforms on YouTube and Apple. We're going to have this out. We're targeting, I want to say, April 29th. I'm looking at my calendar on a Wednesday to have this out. I'm going to have at least four short clips we're going to put out before, Coach, for everybody to see, kind of a little teaser, less than a minute. I'll make sure you get all of them. A lot of people are looking forward to seeing this, and hopefully we did a great job and entertained everybody. And as I always say at the end of our podcast, we'll catch you on the flip side on the next episode of In the Pocket with J Bo. Thank
No
y'all.
doubt.
Thank you,
Thank
Coach.
you.